Hello there, beautiful joy seeker, and welcome back to the I Am Changing podcast. I'm your host, Kaz Humphreys, and I'm a change facilitator. In today's episode, episode 57, I'm sharing 5 tips to support you to stop fighting your imposter self. And that will hopefully enable you to gift yourself some kindness. This is an interesting topic. When I started exploring what the imposter is with a client, I actually gained an understanding that there's a common societal belief that imposter syndrome is a silent saboteur of success and our mental well-being. But in my therapeutic experience and in my investigations, that's not actually true. And when I apply resource therapy principles in that, or ego state theory, is that we're made up of all of these different parts, and imposter is just one part. And the more I reflected, the more I read textbooks and consulted peers, I landed at the following: that your imposter is simply another part that drives your personality's natural defense. Let me reassure you that we all have an imposter part, but we so often resent this part without actually understanding its true function. And this is that your imposter is simply trying to keep you safe. Weird, right? So, what comprises of the imposter? It incorporates all of those parts that involve self doubt, fear of failure, perfectionism, needing control, discounting praise, or even overworking. But here's the thing: if you allow it, your imposter can run wild, and it can keep those defensive walls very high, keep you in that flight or fight state. And your neurological wiring drives this subconscious defensive battle. And this requires a lot of your energy, physical energy, mental and emotional energy, to maintain that sense of hypervigilance in order to keep you safe. And the investment when you have to have your defensive wall up is that when you're regularly activating that defensive wall, this can erode your resilience, your motivation. And if this is you, then it's likely that your confidence bubble might have burst or it's running out of air before you even get to fully embrace complete success sensations. Being able to feel safe to actively work on life challenges and roadblocks can teach you how to get out of your own way in terms of avoidance and procrastination. So let me ask you this: have you struggled to achieve all that you want? And I think everyone on the planet can go, yeah, I have. That's actually how we learn lessons. But if you've got a nagging internal voice that whispers, you're not good enough, let me assure you of a common truth: you are enough, and it's time to believe it. And in my experience, you can wrestle with that imposter part your entire life. But eventually you come to resent it, to dread it showing up, and perhaps even fear it coming to the party. And when this happens, when that imposter does step forward, your conscious mind is doing battle rather than paying attention to the key messages that your imposter is trying to share with you. And I realized that until we learn how to embrace the imposter part, we never really achieve true success and the outcomes that we dream and desire. So I recommend meeting your imposter with kindness, with that curious, open mind. And the more I expand into the mental space of the imposter with my clients and myself, the more I've actually come to realize the importance of learning to love your imposter as an asset. Your imposter self will guide you on arising fears and doubts that are subconscious and it comes to the surface. And when you understand a fear or a doubt, you can take action, you can do something about it. Your imposter self can make you feel tired, overwhelmed, and that can be simply a signal for rest and resetting so that you can try again tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes. Your imposter self will drive overthinking until you write down a list of things to do and then tell yourself this self care strategy, and that's okay when you don't complete it all. So, here's 5 strategies to embrace your imposter with kindness. Excuse me. 1, acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. It's vital for you to recognize that your thoughts are a common, fast paced, temporary thing, yet so easily we can become unstuck when those feelings are not acknowledged. We can tip into overwhelm and into a space of overthinking in an effort to make sense of something. And if it had been acknowledged, it probably would have just continued to flow out of your mind. Here's the thing I want you to remember: we can have up to 60,000 thoughts a day, of which about 75% of them are negative. And of that negative Nancy type of thought, about 90% are from yesterday. And you're not bad for having negative thoughts. That's actually normal. Your brain doesn't want to have to it goes for the lowest common denominator. It doesn't want to have to reframe thoughts into positivity all the time. That takes a lot of emotional, mental energy. So, my suggestion is call them out. We'll talk about that in a minute. The more you can acknowledge your thoughts when they come along and they're negative, those thoughts and feelings, even if you're only calling them out as negative or garbage, the less you propel forward for tomorrow. So, the more you can call out today, the better off you will be tomorrow. So it's the process then of acknowledging what is the imposter juggling? Is it self-doubt? Is it fear of failure? Is it perfectionism? Blah, blah, blah. We've all got those thoughts, but call them out for what they are. They're useless. They get in the way. Tip number 2, celebrate your achievements. Stop taking for granted all of the small wins that you have each and every day, because your imposter keeps score. It's always watching. It's always on subconscious subliminal alert. So if you can call forward an internal cheerleader to acknowledge every little win, you're giving yourself little hits of dopamine to keep the mindset positive, which in turn boosts your motivation and helps you continue moving forward. Therefore, when you keep a record, when you cheer yourself on, good job, Kazzy, when you get something done that's been driving you crazy, you feel good. And when you keep a record of your successes and can reflect on them, whether it be journaling, maybe you do simple colour tracking as suggested by Russ Harris in his published work, The Happiness Trap, the more you then can look at your colour expansion or a picture coming to life, you feel good about that. And what you're actually doing is you're sedating your imposter to say, no, no, we're making progress, we're on track. Tip number 3, talk about progress and success. Now, I don't know about you, but my profession, I'm lucky that I get to undertake clinical supervision and I choose to partake in professional coaching and some networking circles. And because I get to share my feelings with people in a circle of trust, colleagues, friends, mentors. And this is a safe space for me to gain fresh perspectives, especially if I'm feeling stuck, overwhelmed, heavy. I get to commiserate with other people. So if my technotarditis kicks in, someone else can go, oh, I have that too. This is what I did. Or, yep, I feel you. You don't feel alone. You don't feel isolated. You feel motivated to try someone's solution that's worked for them. But most importantly, you're expressing out what it is that's getting in the way. So you're acknowledging very gently, very subtly, the stress that's holding you back. Tip number 4, challenge your negative thoughts. When you permit yourself to recognize imposter speech and language, those negative thoughts and feelings, you're acknowledging them for what they are. They're just garbage. You don't have to analyze them. You don't need to know the why. You can simply go, that's a garbage thought. If you want to take yourself through a process, ask yourself the 4 magic questions. Is that true? How do I know that's true? How do I feel when I have that thought? And who would I feel without it? It's a really powerful process, especially if you're stuck in overthinking, to challenge the thought for what it is. And if it's garbage, you get to just take a reset breath, 2 breaths in, 1 breath out. Just let it go and get on with your day. Because sometimes that's all your imposter needs to break the cycle of garbage going around in your head. So replace that fear of failure, that self-doubt, or even that overthinking with neutral or positive language. An action that then boosts your capacity to remain competent, to remain open, to remain observant during times of stress. And you can challenge negativity with the tools that I've just shared or with journaling, affirmations, tapping, breath work, even going out for a walk or patting the dog. Tip number 5, set yourself realistic goals. Let me ask you this. Do you believe you will ever finish your to-do list? And the realistic answer is that there is always something to do. The list will never be complete. And remember the phrase that keeps you safe, and that's okay. Because let's face it, we always need to eat, we always need to do dishes, and whilst it's optional to bathe and wash your clothes, that's still socially appropriate. So when it comes to your study or work, have a really good look at, are your action lists achievable? Or have you broken down a project or a task into manageable components that allow you to recognize your progress along the way and perhaps see the potential enormity of a task that you're doing? Or does your imposter part appear and then you start to procrastinate because the task feels enormous, unachievable, or overwhelming? And this is really common. So if you get into that, falling into that trap or ticking that box, break the steps down so that at least you can see there are some things like low-hanging fruit that you can do straight away, and perhaps other things that you need to enlist support or read more or do something first before you go about doing the big thing. And so to wrap up today's episode, we all have a part of our psychology called our imposter. Normal part of human experience. It's not a syndrome. It's merely a defensive mechanism to keep you safe and secure. And it shows up with what we perceive as a truckload of negativity. And I wonder aloud, if I allow myself to become curious, this is what I ask clients and participants in retreats. What might change for you if you could pause that stress reaction and treat that imposter part of you with kindness? I wonder what being kind to your imposter might change for you. And I don't know if you're aware, but I've created an entire day retreat experience for you to immerse into that allows participants to immerse deeply into their hearts, get out of their heads, into their hearts, and reverse engineer positive resources to show up for your imposter. This is a whole day experience for participants to come together in a safe way. It's been peer reviewed by colleagues for participants to cheerlead themselves and each other, be kind to themselves, and in turn allow their imposter to show up without that stress-based survival reaction and reset it as a resource rather than a hindrance. You can feel safe to get a glimpse of the unwanted patterns that you run, and then immediately call forward your cheer squad in order to feel safe to explore. And this is really powerful stuff. Participants are loving the immersion experiences in the day that retreats on offer. And if you want more information, check out the show notes below or visit the website. As always, there are daily inspirational posts on my social media pages and within my newsletter. Simply search for me using the show notes below. And to grow my podcast audience, it really helps me if you could hit the follow button. I'd be so grateful. Thanks in advance also for sharing this podcast within your own change tribe. I hope it generates a fire of loving support and proactive discussion of how you can give your imposter kindness and take charge of your journey steps throughout life, regardless of the challenges that experience has brought you. I'm your podcast host, Kaz Humphreys, aka The Change Chick, and the I Am Changing podcast is a reminder that we can all choose to change and bloom from within. Thanks for listening.